the president of the Fiji College of General Practitioners, Dr. John Feteti, your good wife, Seneva. Dr. Helen, the members sitting up here in the front, distinguished guests, members of the College, General Practitioners, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, Nisambodhanak, and good evening to you all. I am deeply honored to be here with you on the occasion of your formal convocation dinner and awards night. Your event is made all the more remarkable that it is held at the Grand Old Lady or the Grand Pacific Hotel, which is a major landmark of our capital city in Seoul. Many of you may have heard that I am the lead advocate or champion for Fiji's campaign to reduce non-communicable diseases. I accepted this additional role with open arms when the Honourable Minister for Health and Medical Services invited me earlier this year. What encouraged me to accept the invitation was the alarming statistics on NCDs, especially noting that more than 80% of Fijians who die before they reach the age of 70 are dying of NCD-related causes. I am advised that this is the same rate of death throughout the Pacific. We now hear that Fijians are losing 2 lower limbs each day from amputations due to diabetes, the second highest cause of NCD-related deaths following heart attacks. I'm firmly of the view that NCD is among the most daunting and challenging issues that our nation faces now. I therefore endeavored in partnership with the Ministry and other stakeholders to take the fight against NCDs into our schools, our homes, and communities and raise awareness to a national level. The gist of my message is that Fijians must choose a healthy lifestyle. This is the only way that we can win the fight against NCDs. So I did not hesitate to accept the invitation to be your guest this evening, because your very timely conference and well thought out theme of integrating mental and occupational health in primary care addresses some of the areas of NCDs that interestingly are not spoken of or talked about much in public forums, including the media. As NCD and mental health issues are at an all-time high at the global level, and I quote from a World Health Organization and World Organization of Family Doctors document that states, hundreds of millions of people worldwide are affected by mental disorders. The World Health Organization estimates that 154 million people suffer from depression and 25 million people from schizophrenia, and 91 million people are affected by alcohol use disorders, and 15 million by drug use disorders. As many as 50 million others suffer from epilepsy, and 24 million from Alzheimer's and other dementias. Around 877,000 people die from suicide every year, unquote. Alarming. These figures reflect the enormity of the problem worldwide. And we, in our small country, also suffer with many of our fellow countrymen and women being victims of substance abuse and misuse, and this includes kava. In addition to the highlighted tragic cases of suicide that we often hear or read about in the media. As general practitioners, you are at the forefront of this fight. Recognizing this and incorporating mental health into the primary care setting is an important first step in addressing the issue. Given the circumstances, it is my humble opinion and believe it prudent that our medical fraternity educate itself more in the field of mental health. Unfortunately, mental health issues are often not given the recognition that they deserve and require, perhaps due to ignorance, prejudice, or other reasons. It is therefore extremely important that we highlight this at every opportunity so that these issues are discussed and addressed in all our homes and communities. Please allow me for a few minutes to talk about some of our important mental health issues. I think we would all agree that we are still very much in the foothills of our journey towards parity of esteem, and by this I mean valuing mental health equally with physical health. And if we are to achieve our ambition to transform the lives of more people with mental health problems in this country, we need to drive a fundamental culture shift in our society at large. We know that recovery is possible. We know help is available. Yet, as a society, we often think about mental health differently than other forms of health. You see commercials on television about a whole array of physical health issues, some of them very personal. Yet, we whisper about mental health issues and avoid asking too many questions. The brain is a body part too. We just know less about it. And there should be no shame in discussing or seeking help for treatable illnesses that affect too many people whom we love. We have to rid ourselves of that embarrassment. We have to get rid of that stigma. Too many Fijians who struggle with mental health illnesses are still suffering in silence. Rather than seeking help, and we need to see to it that men and women who would never hesitate to go to see a doctor if they had a broken arm would have that same attitude when it comes to their mental health. As a soldier, I have personally seen it in peacekeepers who come home from their tours of duty with invisible wounds of mental anguish, of being subjected to some very traumatic situations in some of the most volatile and dangerous conflict zones of the world, but who feel that somehow seeking treatment is a sign of weakness, when in fact it is a sign of strength. We see it in parents who will do anything for their kids, but who often fight their mental health battles alone, afraid that reaching out would somehow reflect badly on them. We see it in the tragedies that we have the power to prevent. I want to be absolutely clear, ladies and gentlemen. The overwhelming majority of people who suffer from mental illnesses are not violent. They rarely pose a threat to themselves or others. There are a whole lot of violent people with no diagnosable mental health issues. However, we also know that most suicides each year involve someone with a mental health or substance abuse disorder. In some cases, when a condition goes untreated, it can lead to tragedy on a larger scale. Evidence shows that treating psychosis rapidly not only dramatically improves someone's chances of recovery, it could also save the health ministry and the nation millions of dollars in a year in reduced hospital admissions and associated costs. And there is a final issue on mental health that I want to talk about tonight. It's helping people at risk of suicide. One of the biggest assumptions most people make about suicide is that if someone is determined to kill himself or herself, there is absolutely nothing we can do to stop them. Even with the best will in the world, if their mind is made up, their death is tragic but inevitable. Yet the truth is that suicide can be prevented. As the Samaritan says, the majority of people who feel suicidal do not actually want to die. They just do not want to live the life they lead. The distinction might seem slight, but it is critical if we are to save more lives. It shows that things can and must change. Suicide is, and always has been, a massive taboo in our society. People are generally scared to talk about it, never mind intervene when they believe a loved one is at risk. The overriding fear is that by asking someone if they are feeling suicidal, you will either wreck your relationship with them or actually put the idea of suicide in their heads. But that is not the case. What would you do if your family member, a friend or loved one was suicidal? In my experience, it's not just the talking that you do, but also the listening. By just being there, you may just be the turning point that they need. Together, we need to create a culture in our country where everyone can talk about his or her mental health problems without fear, embarrassment, or judgment. And today is the day for us to start that conversation, because silence costs lives. The impact of every one of these suicides on the person's loved ones and wider community is most devastating. One person now attempts suicide every 36 hours in Fiji. 620 people committed suicide over the last 5 years, while another 579 people were reported to have attempted suicide in this country. Many families are left in total shock, which can scar them forever. Others speak of their frustration that nobody warned them that it could happen. This is not about blame, and we do not want to be a party to the blame game. It is about doing more in every area of our society to ensure that people do not get to that point where they believe taking their life is the only option. Together we can make the difference, giving everyone trying to cope with a mental health condition an equal chance of the happy, fulfilled life they deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, prior to becoming president, I served as Minister for Labour, Employment and Productivity in our government, as you've heard, and in this capacity I encountered much of the occupational health issues that you will discuss over this weekend. Again, I congratulate you for including these all-important topics in your conference program. Tonight is also of special importance to your college, as it is an event that recognizes and acknowledges the efforts by your members in their quest to become better professionally and personally. I therefore offer my personal congratulations to all of you who have strived to obtain your full membership or fellowship with the college, and others who have achieved goals that these awards recognize. As a highly regarded profession, doctors of medicine are looked up to in our society as beacons and leaders. I therefore invite and encourage you all to join with me in my crusade against all NCDs, mental or otherwise. Ladies and gentlemen, I am duty-bound to also promote the concept of working together, which government is encouraging among the private doctors like yourselves and your colleagues who work for government. Over this past decade, government has been trying to find ways to maximize the availability of the limited expertise in the country. It introduced a local policy that allowed professionals and technical experts in government to also undertake work in the private sector. At the announcement of the budget for the 2016-17 financial year, this past Wednesday, you would have heard the Minister for Economy, the Honourable Syed Qayyum, proclaim government's wish to encourage medical experts like you to also work in the public hospitals during peak hours. This is particularly important in light of the shortage of medical personnel in this country. I understand the government is also putting aside, or have put aside, additional funds to ensure that you are remunerated adequately. As President and Head of State, I urge you to consider this national effort positively, and I further appeal to you to help save the lives of all Fijians by being proactive and implementing the key outcomes of the discussions over the next few days, and by serving our people either at your private practices or in public hospitals. Fiji, as a nation, will be the ultimate winner. I thank you once again for your invitation. I'll be here with you tonight. I wish you all well and success in your endeavors. Thank you. Nawaleu. Dhanyawad. Shukran. God bless you.